Welcome to Catholic Mom Mindset, a daily show where you learn to walk closely with the Holy Spirit so you can live the life God is calling you to. I'm your host, Sterling Jaquith. Let us begin. Next personality typing system, it's not even a system, that I want to talk about is the difference between someone who is a talk to thinker or a think to talker. And I went to a marriage retreat. There was this amazing priest there, and he gave this talk on this concept. I don't know where it comes from, but it's extremely simple to understand. It's that some amount of the population wants to talk through things as a way of thinking. So they're going to begin talking, and as they say the words out loud, it's helping them to process an idea or a concept, and then eventually they kind of land on it. Okay. And then there's a think to talker, and that person wants to do the same thing, but in their mind, they want to think all these sentences in their mind before they kind of coalesce the point and then say it out loud. So you're either a talk to thinker or a think to talker. And it's not gender based. And I don't know. I haven't surveyed enough people to find out if it's often that couples have two of the same kind. I am a talk to thinker and my husband is a think to talker. But hearing this was so powerful for us. And it got me thinking that, our kids are going to be one or the other. And as parents, we want to interact with our kids. We want to teach them how to speak well. We want to teach them to be good communicators. But if you're anything like me and you have 6 kids and your house is kind of busy, there's a lot going on, then I don't always have time to listen to them figure something out. And it occurred to me recently that some of them might just be talk to thinkers and some of them may be think to talkers. And this is still a challenge for my husband and I, even knowing this. He is very particular about words. And so he kind of wants me to have thought through something and then give him a sentence that I've carefully weighed and present a point that I have thought through. And of course, I don't do that. I kind of start talking and I meander all over the place. And so it's very challenging for each of us to accept the other person's way of doing it. And for me, it's maddening that he will sit there and not say anything for like 3 minutes because he's just thinking. And I just want to jump in and be like, and then I thought about this. And what about if we did it this way? And then it could be like this. And I have to learn to just sit there and give him space. But that's his process. And so I was thinking about this with children. And when we've got a kid who freezes, like they look like they're not talking to us, I want you to consider that that child might be a think to talker and they may be working it out in their mind. Likewise, you might have one that starts like spilling things out and it's not quite right. And it's a little bit twisted. And I think as parents, we have a tendency to jump on that and be like, well, what did you mean by that? That's not true. You're lying. And now all of a sudden the conversation's way off track. The kid's having a stress response and they're shutting down. Right? And instead of just recognizing that some kids like me are going to want to talk through things and to give them that space and say, all right, well, why don't you talk about it for a little bit? Tell me what you're thinking. And asking them questions without holding them, like pinning them down on the initial sentences and kind of letting them work it out. And then helping them get to that place where they can make their point more clearly. And then the flip side of that, of course, is, letting a kiddo who just needs to sit there and think for a little while, give him the space to do that. And so I have not figured out each of my kids. I think my oldest is a think to talker. And then I think the next 2 girls are talk to thinkers. And then the little boys are just little. We're not going to think about that just yet. But I think it's extremely valuable to understand this concept and then to treat them based on the way that their brain works and to affirm that they're not a bad person for not doing it the other way. I mean, I think that was the struggle that my husband and I had, is that we just didn't understand why the other person wasn't doing it. And we would misinterpret it to think, like, if he was quiet, I would think he wasn't into what I was talking about or paying attention to me. And if I wasn't careful with my words, he would think that I was being careless and I didn't care enough about him to use my words very carefully. And so, we both had to reframe how we saw each other and the way that we think about information. So I just think this is a really important one and not a common one that I hear a lot, but something you can definitely think about. I think particularly with teenagers, really understanding which one they are and helping them to learn about that. Because, just because we are away doesn't mean that we can use that as an excuse all the time. If you're a think to talker, you might need sometimes to learn how to speed up that process to get something done. And if you're a talk to thinker, you might need to learn how to filter some of what you're saying. And you could teach them to go in their mind and be like, all right, get there faster. What's the point you're trying to make, right? You could begin to train them to do that so that they're more successful with this particular inclination that they have. All right, you guys, I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Catholic Mom Mindset. To learn more about growing closer to the Holy Spirit, check out our free resources at madeforgreatness.co. Thank you so much for listening and have a blessed day.